early attachment injury or early attachment wounds, I think everybody has gone through at some point in their life. But when does it become, first of all, tell us what it is really as a psychologist, and how important it is for parents to understand, and kids who have suffered due to it also to understand, so that they can overcome negatively held beliefs related to that, which affects not just a person's self but also love relationships with others, even their sexuality. So I'd like to spend some time really talking about what these early attachment injury wounds can be.
So early attachment injury really refers to anywhere where a strong attachment bond has not been formed between an infant or a small child and the primary caregiver. In most cases it happens to be the mother, but whoever is a primary caregiver. There are times when the parents may not be there, but there might be another caregiver, very loving grandparent or whatever, who the child can attach with. So if that attachment doesn't happen. Now, attachment may not happen because of various reasons. One is, of course, the set of reasons that we talked about, that there is instability in the family, there is conflict, there is, there is abuse, there's domestic violence, whatever it is. So the attachment figure, the person that you would attach with normally, is just not available for whatever reason, right? The other is that and sometimes the availability can be that in terms of being emotionally available. So it's also possible that the parent figure has a mental health condition. They may themselves be depressed or anxious or have another condition which doesn't allow them to engage completely with the child and form an attachment with the child, right? Another scenario could be that there's just a mismatch, a temperamental mismatch between the child and the caregiver, where it's like, you don't understand the baby or the child doesn't understand you. It's like speaking different languages. It could be, it could play out as, if there's a parent who feels that, it's not a safe place, the child shouldn't go out and is very overprotective, and there's a child who's by nature very exploratory. I mean, they would want to go out, they want to climb things, they want to do stuff. So there'll always be a clash between the two. So if there are constant clashes between the little child and the primary caregiver, the child doesn't have the positive experience to say that I'm good, I'm fine, I am loved, I'm accepted for who I am. Because what they make of these interactions, where they're always told, no, don't do that. Why are you doing that? Why it just makes the child feel I'm doing something wrong, and then that can quickly move into I am wrong, I am flawed, I'm fundamentally flawed kind of a belief.
And one of the things that you have brought up earlier is this early attachment injury also happens when you don't have a tactile family. So there isn't that much touch and affection. And you grow into an adult not being able to communicate physically with the world. It affects your relationships. It also affects your sexuality. How does that happen?
So, so I think it's also, being tactile or not, there's also a change in that. I mean, there was a time when I believe parents were not that tactile, or from the when you look at the Victorian ages, or even maybe 50 years ago or whatever, people are becoming more tactile now and understanding the importance of touch. But yeah, I mean, touch is very important for a child to feel safe and secure and loved. And when that doesn't happen, then they miss out on that, and they are disconnected from that part of their own being. So it's also possible that, now again with negative beliefs, it's possible that you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of negative beliefs. So you may have perfectly fine beliefs around certain aspects of yourself, but may have negative beliefs around another aspect. So it's possible that a person may otherwise feel capable and everything, but when it comes to relationships, or it comes to how they feel about their own bodies, they have a negative belief around that, and then that plays into or plays out in relationships and in sexuality.
And that brings me to the point: how can you fix it?
for all of that, I think it goes back to figuring out what is it that's causing the problem. You know, what are you thinking about yourself? What do you really believe about yourself which is causing a problem? Now, if it is about having a negative body image or being uncomfortable with touch, then that's also a point to stop and say, okay, why am I uncomfortable with touch? What makes me uncomfortable with touch? And uncovering those thoughts that come in the way or that make touch difficult. So it's important to kind of uncover those thoughts and then work on them. Once you become aware of fundamentally, one of the beliefs, the core beliefs that you have about yourself, you can start changing it because you look at it from an adult's point of view now. When you formed that belief, you were a child with a child's ability of thinking and a very limited kind of a view and a very limited cognitive ability, limited ability to think. And that's where the view is formed. Of course, it's not a reality, it's not true, it's not useful, it's not valid now as a grown-up. So then from a grown-up's point of view, you can look at it and say, okay, this doesn't make sense, this is not true. And I need to let it go and I need to replace it with a more positive thought or belief about myself.
And that's a great way to end, is when you replace those negative emotions attached to certain beliefs with some positive emotions. Things don't look so bad and the world is not that difficult a place and not so scary a place to live in, right? Yeah. Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us.
Thank you.